Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Garrett Fuller with MMORPG.com. I am sitting with Richard Leonarz, the product marketing manager from Samsung, who came down to visit us today at Maingear, and Wallace Santos, the CEO of Maingear. So this is going to be a cool video because we don't do a lot of hardware videos on MMORPG, and we are bringing a lot more hardware videos to you guys over the next couple of weeks. And this really kicks off the series. So why don't we talk about what we're here to talk about, some drives. Let's just start off right off the cuff with the products and the products that Samsung's putting out there with the SSD drives and things like that. So Wallace, since you're building the PCs, sure, why don't you take us into a little bit about why Maingear uses the Samsung products and what that brings to, for your users out there, and then we can hand it to Richard for me to talk about it. So.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for paying us a visit. So it starts with our qualification, right? When a new product is out, we tend to take a look at every manufacturer of drives. In this case, in the SSDs, and we do basically a series of tests, torture tests on these drives, right? Mm-hmm. We look for things like simple things like, why is it blue screening? Why when we have this thing under load for 48 hours, is it gonna have a hiccup, right? Once we do actually find a series of drives that we like, so for example, we might look at Samsung and a few other competitors and say, okay, we have 2 or 3 drives that stand out, and then how do we kind of filter that down to a single or 1 or 2 offerings? We essentially at Maingear, we want to offer the best. So what's the most reliable? What has the best performance, right? And once you have a great product, then how is it supported? Right? Do you have a real company behind that product to support our product, right?
Sure.
So when we tend to always lean towards Samsung in this case. In our case, we select Samsung because we feel like they have the best manufacturing technology. We feel like they have the best support, and in our case, we found them to be the most reliable. Historically speaking, if you look at the RMA rates of drives that fail, it's pretty much non-existent with these guys.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think one of those reasons is because they tend to own the hardware and the firmware side of things, right? But I'll let him speak about it because he's more qualified than I am.
Sounds good.
Yeah, pass the ball to Rich. Go ahead.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again for inviting me in here. Yeah, so we're excited to begin with because gamers have been the first guys that took over our drives. When we launched this product in the US, gamers were really the guys that were like, hey, we need SSDs because all these things work 1,000 times better once you put an SSD in there. So this is awesome. It's great. Thank you for having us.
Sure.
Now for the SSD part of it, I mean, our key core of what we bring to the market is that end-to-end integration. So when we talk about the failure rates, for us to have this product that we bring out to market, it's really everything is designed in-house. The firmware is, you work on it for your drive. You don't have to do this generalized, work with every other manufacturer out there. The controller, same thing. The controller is built for our NAND chips. So everything goes from the engineering when they're doing the architecture for the SSD, everybody's in the same facility, get together, spec out the whole thing. So it has brought like really great product, very low failure rates, which for us is key, of course, and for a lot of customers. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is you do a whole rollout of these things, and then you start seeing blackouts left and right, and now you don't know is it the SSD, and then the SSD manufacturer's like, no, this is a controller issue. So that's part of the benefit here is you point the finger at us, it's us that take ownership of this thing, and so far, knock on wood, the failure rates, all that has been great, very low. Now for us too, the benefit of everything in-house is now we went from the old planar technology that we had on our previous generation SSDs to now the 3D VNAND. So part of the reason was, customers, everybody wants higher capacity, faster performance, lower energy use. We just couldn't see the roadmap anymore, like shrinking the geometry on the NAND cells to keep getting the cost down, increasing densities. And finally, it got to a point where we stopped around 19 nanometers or so and said, you know what, that road is just, there's a dead end at it. So we switched to doing the stacked cells. So going from planar, it's like a neighborhood where you kept building homes and homes in one neighborhood, like acre lot. Now we're in an apartment building, so you can keep building up. You have the density increases, so we'll be announcing soon a 2 terabyte product coming out.
Wow.
Roadmap already has 4 terabytes, 8 terabytes in the near future. So that gives us that ability to stack up on the capacity while not losing any of the performance on the drive, not the endurance on the drive. You keep that going up as well. So that's been our move. It's been going out of this the sort of the dead end roadmap with the planar to 3D VNAND, and that's what we're seeing now. Our competitors are also seeing, like, that's really the direction we want to go as well. And next thing now is for us is getting out of the SATA interface, and now we're seeing PCIe and NVMe speeds. So it's really sort of the next move for SSD lineup. So we'll have some announcements coming out in a few weeks about the product roadmap for that type of interface. Again, for gamers and for the high rigs that you guys are building, that's a no-brainer, right? That really is the next step to break through the current, the bottleneck that you see from SATA. So we're excited. There's always technology coming out. We're happy that we actually have the engineers in the factory who are thinking ahead, a couple generations out, building new technology. Our OEM group, they're working with all the hardware guys to make sure everything's compatible, working right. There's no hiccups between different board manufacturers and everything else. So it's a huge group effort across all the different divisions. And this is great to hear you actually say that, all that stuff that happens on the backside, I actually see it on the front end with a quality product that's working right. And of course, you don't want to have your customers calling and complaining, hey, you just sold me something that is failing on me. So that's our check mark in our book that, hey, it's working right.
That's a good point. I mean, we've had issues in the past where, we're testing these drives, putting them to, not your drives, but putting some competitor drives through a torture test, and that's exactly what they said. Oh, they said, look, the firmware guys need to get back to us. Right. It's not our fault. It's not the hardware. It's not on the hardware level. It's on the firmware level, and we're having to email different companies to try to figure out where's the culprit here. Yeah. And you're exactly right. I mean, they're pinpointing at each other and saying, hey, this is not our fault. This is their fault, and the other guys are saying this is their fault, not our fault, right? So it's really nice that you guys have full control of the product.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I saw it originally when we went from customers using spinning disk hard drives to then going into SSDs. I mean, the hard drives were showing up already damaged from shipping, and then they would have issues, and they would call and was like, no, that's not our problem, whatever else. So we used to hear that just when that transition was happening about 2 years ago or so. Now more people get SSDs, they understand that, and now the next level is exactly that. I mean, it's making sure the customer service. And more, you're running a company, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to call 800 numbers left and right to figure out, who am I getting an RMA from or all that. And the customer, they'll blame you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they bought a rig from Maingear, so they're like, hey, I don't care, this is something new. So again, for us, that's the main thing, is keep our customers happy. It helps you keep your customers happy. So it's just really helping out the entire structure. And again, when we talk about why I brought up the whole thing about VNAND is because that was one of the issues we're seeing with the previous, the planar technology, right? It gets to a point where you're asking a lot out of the technology. And you start seeing failures, and you start seeing you have to do software manipulation to try and make sure you get the endurance right and all this. And that doesn't work long term, and as you scale up and do everything else, it starts to become an issue. So it's best to, let's stop there and move now on to something that we see more of a future for, and again, scalable, right? That's for everybody, is as you can build something that really works well for customers building systems such as yours to just a regular home user, like with a normal desktop PC. They're covered because that the heavy guys are really pounding on these things. When you talk about the performance, that's really for the next gen type thing, right? It's when you're looking at the current AKI sort of bus speeds in the PCs and SATA. It wasn't designed for SSDs. I mean, really was designed for spinning disk and making those work. They've sort of been clobbered a little bit and modified to work with SSDs, but the speeds are just so much greater. You know, you're talking about 100,000 IOPS versus 300 IOPS. So it's just not designed for that. So that's why we're excited for now shifting to NVMe, right? It's, you know, 2 gigabits per second versus megabytes per second type of transfer rates. And now that's really more in line with flash memory type of storage. So talk about performance and increasing all that, it's going to be phenomenal just from a user perspective. Now cost and everything else is the infrastructure out there. That has to build up as well. So it's not a, you know, becomes available today and then tomorrow everybody is out there building these things. You know, it'll take time, but at least we're starting to finally see the board manufacturers really put their money behind that type of technology and going down that road. So I think that'll be exciting, and more as these games really start taking advantage of the higher, you know, throughputs of the SSD. I mean, graphics cards have become phenomenal. You know, you can render 4K movies. It's just awesome stuff out there, but without really everything component in that PC working together, you're always going to have the lowest common denominator issue, right? So you'll have this phenomenal software out there, but if your, you know, SSD is the slowest thing, then sorry, you got to work down to that level. If your graphics card is not up to par, then sorry, you got. So it's neat to see. I mean, everybody's starting to really step up the game a little bit on the performance, from the chip manufacturers all the way to the software developers. So it's, as I say, it's ever evolving. I think the VR stuff coming out there really put also a kick in the butt for a lot of guys. Like, you don't want the guy there vomiting on your show floor when he's putting the gear on, right? It's that starter just horrendous. So you know, you got to get all the things out there. I mean, that's still a couple years away until that becomes something out there. But you know, at least from a hardware perspective, it's getting there. It's actually pretty good to see that.
Cool, great.
Make sure to level up your MMO knowledge by visiting MMORPG.com, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and by following us on social media. To catch up on the week's biggest MMO news, watch our latest MMO FTW. And to see if there's a better MMO out there for you, watch one of our latest First Impressions videos. Thanks for watching.